Hello and welcome to this new tutorial, everyone. Today we are going to make a second version of the Octagon shirt, this time with a discrete start, but still in one block piece. I'm also going to show you how to change color without cutting the yarn. As usual, no sewing assembly. And last, we're going to add borders. You can subscribe if you haven't yet, if you want to see more tutorials like this and crochet contents. Don't hesitate to follow me also on my social medias, and happy crochet! We have seen the classical construction of the octagon. For example, for a width of 55 centimeters, we are going to have sleeve length plus collar width of 55 centimeters too. And if we remove that neck width, let's say 10 centimeters, we get the height of the garment. Here, for example, 45 centimeters. Thus, our octagon will be constructed this way. But let's suppose we want to have an extra length of 55 centimeters. How do we do that? Meaning to have a total height of 60 centimeters. Well, we just need to start our work with a rectangle of 55 centimeters width and 55 centimeters length. And we have seen it in a previous tutorial. We construct the octagon around it. And to obtain that rectangle, we just need to make the calculation of the length minus the width. 55 minus 15 equal 40. And 40 is the length of the foundation chain in the center. Therefore, if we begin the work with a square, let's say 55 centimeters side, we are going to get a long garment about 100 centimeters height. And the longer the start, the longer the garment, with a vertical rectangle, for example. Let's begin with the material. This yarn is a mix of cotton and wool, 100 grams and 175 meters per skein. It suggested a size 7 crochet hook, which I think corresponds to 4 millimeters, as we can see on this crochet hook. But I'm going to use a 6 millimeters crochet hook, basically a size 10, to have a flowy and airy finish. You are also going to need scissors, stitch markers, a notepad, and a tape measure to make the measures. So I'm going to let you make your measures to determine the width you want and the extra length you want to add. And then the calculation. For my version, I'm going to make the 55 centimeters by 15 centimeters. I'm going then to start with my 40 centimeters center. Let's begin as always with a slip knot. And make a foundation chain of 40 centimeters. I made 41 centimeters just in case. And now we're going to crochet row 1. Begin with chain 2 and double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook, here. The chain of 3 we just skipped count as a first double crochet. Continue making a double crochet in each stitch across. When we're done, we're going to count the double crochets. As I said, the chain of 3 at the beginning counts as the first double crochet. We want to have a multiple of 3 plus 2. So I'm going to count 3 by 3. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and so on. I said I need a plus 2 at the end. Here I have 3, so I'm just going to frog the last one. And I have my multiple of 3 plus 2. I'm going to make a little check if the length is still around 40 centimeters. It looks alright. and we are going to crochet around that first row. Chain 3 to make the first double crochet, and double crochet in the space between the last 2 double crochets of the first row, and a second double crochet in the same space, and we have our first granny stitch. Chain 2 and make another cluster of 3 double crochet in the same space. A cluster of 3 double crochets equal 1 granny stitch, and I have 1 corner. Then I'm going to skip 3 double crochets and crochet a granny stitch in the space between 2 double crochets. Note that there is no chain in between the granny stitches. Skip 3 double crochets again and granny stitch directly in the space between 2 double crochets. And I'm going to keep on doing that until I reach the other end. As you can see, the row 1 kind of transformed itself into granny stitches too. Now we are going to make a U-turn. Granny stitch in the last space between the 2 edging double crochets. And I'm sure you already know we are going to make 2 corners. After the first granny stitch, chain 2, then another granny stitch in the same space. And again, chain 2. And a third granny stitch in the same space. And here I have my 2 corners with my 2 corner spaces. And we're going to crochet at the bottom to complete the round. Here we skip the group of 3 double crochets and granny stitch. At the end of the row, we are going to complete the first corner. So granny stitch in the first beginning space. And instead of the chain of 2, we're going to close with a half double crochet at the top of the chain 3 beginning double crochet. And each row will be closed the same way. And thus we created the base of our rectangle. And we are going to use it to gauge our work. I need a 15 centimeters width rectangle, so I'm going to count the number of granny stitches on those 15 centimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to note the number. 15 centimeters equal 7 granny stitches. Therefore, I need 7 rows. To introduce a new color, prepare it with a slip knot. Then begin the half double crochet to close the row without finishing it. Pass the yarn in front from over the crochet hook, and we are going to pull the new color through. And directly chain 3 for the first double crochet. Pass the older color on the right. You can even hold it with your right hand. And begin the second double crochet without finishing it. Pass the older color from below the crochet hook to the back. Then finish the double crochet, still holding the former color into place. This way the older color is somehow twisted at the back and go up the rows even when it is not used. You know now how to introduce each color. To travel the colors up without using them, still begin the half double crochet without finishing it. As earlier, pass the non-used color over the crochet hook, then finish the half double crochet. and directly chain 3. Then second double crochet without finishing it, keeping the other colors on the right. Pass the other colors below the crochet hook to the back. And then finish the double crochet without letting go of the other colors. You're going to need to unravel those yarns from time to time though, especially at the beginning of the row. And last eventuality, when we want to change color. Begin the half double crochet without finishing it. Then isolate the color you want to use and pass the others over the crochet hook. Hold them and switch to the new color to finish the half double crochet and chain 3. And the rest is similar to what we already have seen. Begin the double crochet. Pass the not used colors from below to the back. You can hold them at the back with your left middle finger and finish the double crochet. There are different techniques to switch color yarn throughout internet, so I let you choose whichever you prefer. I have made several tutorials about this. At the beginning of each row, we make half of the first corner with a granny stitch in the first space, which is the half double crochet space. And that first corner will be completed at the end of the row with a second granny stitch in the same space and closed with a half double crochet forming the first corner space. Thus, the beginning and the end of each row will always be at the same corner. Let's go back to our rectangle. We have our first granny stitch in our first corner space, and in the next space, which is a corner space, we are going to make a corner, meaning a granny stitch, chain 2, and a second granny stitch. And that will be the same pattern for all the corners. That is to say that in each chain 2 space, we are going to make a granny stitch, chain 2, and a second granny stitch. And in regular spaces, which is the gap between 2 granny stitches, we are going to make just 1 granny stitch. And you already know how to close the row. I have my 7 rows and I'm going to check the size. I have 16 centimeters, and with 6 rows I would have had 13.5 centimeters. So the 15 centimeters were impossible anyway. And in length, I have 57 centimeters. And with 6 rows, I would have had 54.5 centimeters, which is quite close to the width I want, but I'm going to stick to my 7 rows. And instead of 10 centimeters neck width, I'm going to make 15 centimeters. 55 minus 15 equal 40, so I have 40 centimeters sleeve length. And again, we're going to use our gauge rectangle. Yes, I jump in the video to readapt my measures, but you can definitely use the starting rectangle. So I'm going to check how many granny stitches there are on the 40 centimeters. You can use any row to make the comparison and count the granny stitches. And I always have between 17 and 18 granny stitches. And just like with the rectangle, this means I need 17 octagonal rows, assembly row included. We are going to put stitch markers on the two upper corners, which are the second and the third corner, because they are going to be the center of the armpits. Begin the next row as usual until you reach the stitch marker. At the marked corner space, remove the stitch marker. And we're going to make the increases to get our first octagon row. Granny stitch in the corner space. Chain 2. A second granny stitch in the corner space. Chain 2. A third granny stitch. Chain 2. And lastly, a fourth granny stitch. And thus we have 3 corners. 1, 2, 3. And 4 granny stitches in the same space. Continue the usual pattern on the next side. And on a stitch marker, reproduce the exact same thing as for the first one. And finish the row. And the principle is the same for all the upcoming rows, which is granny stitch 1 in each regular space, and in each corner spaces with chain 2, work granny stitch, chain 2, and a second granny stitch in the same space. We can see the tiny sleeve beginning to form itself. I finished the third row for the first one. And always in corner spaces, we work granny stitch, chain 2, and another granny stitch in the same space to pass from one side to the other, and thus creating the corner space for the next row. If you have noticed, there is an increase of 1 granny stitch on each side, on each row, and that's how we can determine the number of rows necessary to get a certain number of granny stitches on one side. We did it with a rectangle and also for the sleeves. I finished the construction and I have the last assembly row left. For this last row, I started as usual. Gonna make a border on the sleeve, connect, then continue, make the second border and connect, and finish the row normally, and a final border with 1 or 2 or as many single crochet rows as you want. Take 2 stitch markers and mark the 4th corner just over here, and the 6th, which is here, I count my rows. I have 16. And I have my 15 centimeters neck width. I am going to use only one color from here on. So I cut the other two. Actually, the yellow was cut on the previous row, as I knew I wouldn't use it anymore. And I'm going to tie them together to secure the work. Don't make it too tight for the first ones to keep the elasticity. And here we go for the last row. Make the first granny stitch in the corner space and keep on the usual pattern until you reach the first stitch marker. My last granny stitch is with the stitch marker. Here we're gonna flip our work and we're going to make a row of single crochet. Chain 1 and single crochet 1 in the first stitch. And keep on working single crochet in each stitch across the whole side. At the end, flip the work again, and we are going to make a second single crochet row similar to the previous one. Chain 1 and single crochet in the first stitch, and keep on working single crochet in each stitch across. Here is my last single crochet. And we are going to connect the two tips to close the sleeve. Fold the last side, release the loop, and insert your hook in the very first stitch of the last single crochet row. Then grab the loop back on the crochet hook and pull it through. Slip stitch on top of the first single crochet row. Release the loop again and insert your hook on top of the first single crochet row at the opposite side. Grab the loop and pull it through. Then slip stitch on top of the double crochet row. Release the loop again and insert it on top of the double crochet row of the opposite side. Grab the loop and pull it through. The border is now connected. Slip stitch through the corner space of the opposite side. And continue with the first double crochet of the second granny stitch in the corner space. We are going to connect this double crochet to its opposite to make the assembly. To do that, release the loop and pull it through the stitch of the opposite double crochet. Those two double crochets are now connected, and we're going to continue with the second double crochet. Release the loop and insert your hook in the stitch of the opposite double crochet, then pull the loop through. And third double crochet of this granny stitch that we are going to connect to its opposite, and so on. We are going to continue the pattern and connect each double crochet to its opposite. I just finished the last double crochet to connect. And we're going to continue the row normally until we reach the other stitch marker. And we're going to make the exact same thing for the second sleeve. At the end of the second sleeve, chain 2 to pass on the next side. Then second granny stitch in the corner space and crochet the rest of the row as usual. Finally, I'm going to make 2 single crochet rows. Start with chain 1, then 2 single crochets in the first corner space. Then work a single crochet in each stitch. Single crochet 1 in the chain 2 space. And I continue directly on the next side, still working a single crochet in each stitch. Still single crochet 1 in the chain 2 space after the neck, and continue with single crochet 1 in each stitch. Three single crochets in the corner space at the bottom, and put a stitch marker in the middle one, the second. And keep on working 1 single crochet in each stitch across the last side until the end of the row. I complete with a single crochet in the first space, then slip stitch on top of the first single crochet to close the row. Chain 1 to begin the second row, and make an increase with 2 single crochets in the first stitch. Continue with 1 single crochet in each stitch until you reach the stitch marker. On the stitch marker, we are going to make an increase, 3 single crochets in the same stitch. If you want to add another row, you can put back the stitch marker in the central stitch. As I am not going to do that, I won't put it back. We continue with 1 single crochet in each stitch until the end of the row. Complete the first increase with a single crochet in the same stitch. And slip stitch on top of the first single crochet to close the row. I add 2 slip stitches in the next 2 stitches to secure. Cut, pull tight, and lastly within the ends with a tapestry needle or a small crochet hook. Thank you so much to have followed this tutorial until the end. Don't hesitate to ask me questions in the comment section if ever something is not clear, to subscribe to my channel and my social medias, and don't hesitate to tag me also if you want to share your work. Happy crochet and see you very soon. So I used 2.5 skein of the color lilac, maybe more even because this one is pretty hollow. More than 1.5 for the color yellow, and almost 2 of the color salmon.